I'm hitting the button. And we've got things populating. We've got stuff going on. Hopefully everything's good. Somebody give me a little bit of, feedback. Like, hey, you know what? All this new setup, it's running and we can hear you and we can see you, because that would be awesome if that's all true, given the fact that we're in a brand new setup, as you can see. And we'll talk about that in a moment because, we've been saying that this was going to happen for a long time. Welcome to the gallery. That's what we've got going on here. Not completely done.
No.
We've got some lighting things that we got to do with the stuff in the back. We've got some pictures going on in the back as well that are in the process of either being delivered or being framed, because we've got some old school art type stuff going on. Yep. So this is what we've been working on. And if you've been following the channel for a while, over the last, I don't even know, maybe 6 months ago, we started, maybe it was even longer ago. I don't remember how long it's been since we actually started breaking stuff down in here. The thumbnail for today's live stream, that's the way it looked back in the day. I like the way it looked back then too.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that. It just was no longer practical to have 80 aquariums, 40 on this side, 40 on the other side. So we decided that this side would be a more relaxed look, just display some of the aquariums that we really like with fish that we love. And eventually behind us, you'll see some seating, and off camera on both sides, we've got some place for some seating. On the other side of the low boy, we have more places for more seating. And so the name of the game here is going to be what? Just chill?
Yes.
Yeah. Fish room and hang out. That's what we've got going on here. So hopefully the noise isn't going to be too bad. We kind of did some testing, or not kind of, I did some testing, and we do have the air system running on the other side. It's a little bit of I don't really want to shut it down for an hour and a half. I can make it quieter if I really need to, but I would prefer, if possible, not to have to do that. So we're going to see how it goes tonight, and then we can always make adjustments with the audio, right?
Yeah. Does anybody hear any bubble, bubble, bubble? I'm curious.
There's
any
definitely
bubbling?
going to be a little bit from my testing, when I did all the testing with the audio.
There was a
faint little bit of bubble or like a low hum.
Doesn't that give it like a sense of realism? Like that's not a fake backdrop sort of thing?
I've actually had people... Well, one asked me, and then even some people accuse me of using a green screen for the background, and
it's too quiet.
Because, I don't know. On some of the videos, even on the other side of the fish room, people would be like, you know what? That's not a real background. Where did you get that from? That's not your fish room. And I remember at one point in one video, I think I actually made a comment, no, this is not a green screen, and I walked all the way back towards some of the aquariums, and I was just like touching them. I'm like, you see, this is not a green screen. So same thing here. This is not a green screen. I can take this paper ball and just, there you go. See, it went backwards. I don't know why.
Wow.
I was, wouldn't that have been hilarious?
If it would have gone in the tank?
If it would have just been floating there the whole time, and I'd be like, oh, that did not go as planned. Now there's a paper ball inside the low boy. That would have been pretty interesting. So, but anyway, this is the new gallery.
Welcome
to the new gallery. We have got, so I think what we're going to do, we can just get right into talking about videos for the week and where we're going to be. Videos for the week. This past Sunday, I did a review of the Fluval 407, and that 407 is on both of the 75-gallon aquariums. Canister filter. It's been running very well, very quiet, lots of flow, perfect, I think, for a 75-gallon. Both of these tanks are going to be stocked more heavily than I would say average. And then let's see here. Monday, we had the Tank Talk podcast. We talked about aquarium lighting. So if you haven't checked that out and you like people talking about aquariums, check out the Tank Talk podcast. That's my channel along with John Hudson from KG Tropicals. We started that channel about, I think that was video number 4 that came out. So it's been about a month, and we really, really appreciate all the feedback that we've gotten, the positive feedback, and all of the people hanging out with us over the last last month or so. Do want to say before we get into your stuff that we've got some people who are being very generous this fine evening, and I just want to say thank you to Demars for gifting the 5 Primetime Aquatics memberships. And now because of you, we've got Debbie, and we've got Paige, and we've got Rhonda and Evan and Kenny are all brand new prime timers. Thank you so much for doing that. It was very, very kind. And then to follow it up, he did it again. He or she, I don't know, did it again with another 5 memberships. My goodness, thank you very, very much. We've got, and again, I'm squinting. Okay, I'm using my squinting because I'm using a small screen here to see that kind of stuff, because that screen that I have on the big screen doesn't show it as well. So from my squinting, I'm going to say that Martin and Tracy and Dee and Ashley and Dee, Tracy, and Kevin are now prime timers as well. Thank you so much. And we've got Finsanity here, who's been a member for the last 13 months. Really appreciate it. Awesome gallery. Do you want to redesign mine? Amazing. I don't know, man. I'm so burnt out right now from doing this stuff. And we're not really done, because we've got stuff on the other side that we said we were going to tackle. I did one of those aquariums kind of halfway in doing this one because we needed to. So we added the 60 breeder over there. We did the goldfish tank over there, the 75 gallon, but there's more to do. And Joanna's basically just told me, you know what? I get to do it now, because I used to say, hey, we've got a scape to do. And she'd look at me and be like, oh, okay, what do you want?
Basically,
and
yeah.
I said that just out of a habit. I'm like, man, we've got to escape that 125. She's like, what do you mean we? Have fun. And I'm like, all right, fine. I'll just do it myself. There's not going to be any plants in that tank because we've got Vieja over there. So
see,
that's just the way it is. I guess it'll work out just fine, because I like to do the hardscaping anyway.
Yeah.
Finsanity, thank you so much for the super chat. Really appreciate it. Really does look amazing. Well, I really appreciate it. Appreciate you being here. Thank you.
It's fun.
So continuing on the land of videos, Tank Talk podcast video came out all about lighting. Today on the Smallscape on your channel, what did you do?
Well, I discussed the fun of giving your tank a job, especially if you are running into aquascaping problems or you just don't want to aquascape.
Yeah.
Give it a job.
I thought that was an interesting way to think about stuff.
Thank you very much.
So I would like my tanks to, I don't know, clean the house.
Oh, wouldn't that be great?
Organize the garage. So is that the type of jobs that we can give our tanks? Because if that's
No.
the case, then I think aquarium keeping is going to become much, much more popular.
No, but now I can picture like little fish like carrying boxes. That's funny.
Or like a
In my
robot
head.
aquarium with fish inside, and they're just like,
Yes.
okay, let me go clean the garage. And then they do the dishes. I'm like, man, my aquarium robot is just killing it today. It's awesome.
It's like
right?
a pleco.
It's
You
what
have to
everybody needs, an
name
aquarium
them a
robot.
pleco.
Like the thing, remember the TV show, what was the TV? Lost in Space?
Yeah.
Right, with the
Oh,
robot?
yeah.
Danger, Will Robinson. That would be your aquarium robot. Danger, danger, I have to do the dishes. Get out of my way. All right?
Cool.
The aquarium robot
I'd be
starts
like,
losing it.
I'll get out of your way. Sure.
And then it takes a horrible turn. Aquarium robot goes rogue. Right? Anybody ever
And
seen
then-
that movie Megan on, what was that, Amazon
Oh,
Prime?
I was thinking about Sharknado.
No. Oh, it could be a combination of Megan Sharknado.
Did you
where
guys ever see Sharknado?
We watched all of the Sharknados because they were so bad
So
they were
bad.
good.
It's like the Expendables.
Yeah.
So bad, they're good.
Yep, you just had to do it. So yeah, so Wednesday, today you did your thing. Tomorrow we'll have the members video out, and then on Sunday, I am going to do a full tour of everything you see behind me. So if you're really wanting to see the tanks up close, the fish that we've added since we originally did the videos, and there have been some changes that have happened because, quite frankly, there's been a couple fish that didn't make it. Right? So as we're transferring things around, I'll share that with you as well. Some of the fish did pretty well. Some of them struggled a little bit. We've added some fish. We've done some changes to some of the scapes because some of the plants were not necessarily working out. And while it's hard to see here, trust me, there are some growing pains with some of these aquariums as well. So you're going to see that as well. Not going to hide the challenges that we've had with, I mean, in every single tank, we've had things that we've had to deal with, and that's just part of fish keeping. So I'm not going to just present it as if, wow, you know what? Look at us. We tore down 40 tanks. We put up 5. We put all these new fish in here. We transferred a bunch of fish, and guess what?
It's all 100% great.
It is. Yeah, it's all great, and we did everything perfect. And you know why? Because we're amazing, and anybody who has problems, well, they're just not as amazing. So, no, trust me, there are things going on in these aquariums, and I will share that with you as we go through that tour on Sunday. Chris says, how long does your cough last? A week ago, Wednesday. Yeah,
That's right. I get home, and he's like, oh, that didn't last long.
Yeah, with halls in my mouth. Joanna's like, why are you down here? How come you're not still live streaming? I'm like, well, basically, after you left, my throat started getting dry and I coughed, and then I came back and I thought I was going to be okay, and I lasted about a minute and a half, and I'm like, nope, this is not going to work. And I'm so thankful that we have the community that we do, because y'all are awesome. I mean, really, this is a wonderful community because they're just like, yeah, you need to like stop and basically
Go on
stop
now.
talking and go to bed. But what was cool, to answer your question, is I think I was good by Saturday. So last Saturday. So it lasted a week. It was just a common cold. It wasn't like flu or anything like that, which was, I now realize I haven't had a common cold in I think a very long time. I think every time I've gotten sick over probably the last 5, 6, 7 years, I think I've had full on like influenza something because it would be like fevers and chills. And then like this time I'm like, this is just a cold. This is nothing. I'll just, whatever, I'll deal with it.
Old school cold.
Old school cold. I don't think I've had one in a very long time. So yes, I'm feeling better. Thank you for asking. And so that's okay. So we talked about Sunday's video, and then next Monday on the Tank Talk podcast, that's a different YouTube channel, John and we talk about something really cool. And that's all I'm going to say. You're going to know because if you subscribe to that channel, I actually put out a couple of shorts every week as kind of a preview, and then the
teasers.
Yeah,
Teaser
just
shorts.
kind of give you an idea of what's coming
That's
up on
fun.
the podcast. And then I do a couple after the podcast just so people can kind of see, what's going on. So, yeah, that's pretty much what's happening. Shamu Aquatics, thank you for being here the last month. That's awesome.
No.
That's one of the best green screen backdrops I've ever seen. Laugh it up.
Lifelike looking fish.
That's
too.
right. You did not see me just chuck the paper ball and knock the stand over. Not the stand over, but hit the stand over there.
Doink.
I'm not going to do it again because at some point I will chuck one right into the low boy.
Yeah,
That'll become
and
like
they
a
will
thing. Like,
not be
I'm
happy.
going to go ahead and chuck the paper, and that'll be the way we leave. And we're done. Chuck the paper ball into the low boy. Like, I don't know if that guy should be keeping fish. He's a little strange. So anyway, that's what the Land of Videos has all been about. Where we're going to be, we actually have a swap coming up this Saturday. It's going to be at the Greenwater Aquarius Society swap, and that is in Tinley Park, Illinois. The website has been updated with fish. Thank you to everybody who's already placed pre-orders. If you haven't done it yet, check out primetimeaquatics.com. We've got fish there available for pickup only at the swap in Tinley Park. It's a wonderful swap. It's free to get in. You don't have to be a member. You can just go in there, wander around, get awesome fish, plants, driftwood, you name it, rocks, and save a whole bunch of money doing it. So that's what's going on.
Second Floor Aquatics love Sharknadoes as well.
It's hard not to just enjoy the
You have
charm
to
of
appreciate
Sharknado.
They're a sight to behold.
That one, and like I said, if you combine that with that movie Megan, which I actually enjoyed that movie. It's one of the few movies I've enjoyed in a while. It was very creepy. It was very weird.
I don't do creepy.
Yeah.
I do Alfred Hitchcock, which is
which can be
movie
hit or miss
making.
for sure. You've
It
made
can
me
be
watch
boring.
a bunch of those now.
Yeah,
And
but you like a few.
Yeah, but the last couple, well, not the last couple. The last one was definitely a little bit slower.
He did not like Rope.
No, I didn't. Was it
Found it
Rope?
boring. Yeah.
I don't even remember what it was about.
But
Was
you
that
ranked
boring?
it towards the bottom.
Yeah, it was
At
definitely towards the bottom.
Psycho. Both him and Eli have ranked Psycho at the
Yeah,
bottom
I'm not
of
a
the
huge
list.
fan. I'm not a huge fan of birds. I didn't like that very much.
That's right.
either.
There's
So
just some funny
those are
parts
probably
in
the
there.
bottom three. I'm not, if you like them, that's cool. You're allowed to. But I just think there were better movies.
Guess. Okay, I'm just gonna see who wants to play. Guess one of his top 3 picks for Hitchcock movies that were his favorite.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm curious if anybody has a good guess.
Yep. So I don't know. It'll be tough to guess. So anyway, what we're doing tonight is we're just here for you. We're going to do some fish Q&A. Hopefully you've got the questions and hopefully we've got some answers for you. Like I said, I thought I saw a couple comments come in. We are full on tour coming on Sunday. And like I said, we've still got some stuff to do. We've actually got a couple of signs up there on the shelves that I wanted to illuminate in about maybe 25 minutes before the live stream. I'm like, oh my gosh, I forgot
more.
we need those little really low light pucks so we can shine them up onto the pictures.
And why can't I get them for you?
Well, why don't you tell everybody why we can't currently get to half of our stuff right now?
Well, surprisingly, an Oink guessed Vertigo. Vertigo was like his top. They have
I like
not.
that one a
He has
lot.
not seen Strangers on a Train yet, or North by Northwest. He may like those. Okay. Well, Monday, was it Monday? That Monday evening that we got the call, or Tuesday?
Monday evening.
Monday.
Yeah, late, like 9 o'clock on Monday night.
We get a call from the guy that's taking care of the loft, changing it into putting a wall up. Like, hey, I'll be there in the morning at 8. And we're like, what?
It was 9 o'clock at night. And we're like, okay.
No.
So, yeah.
So when you would watch the backdrop for anything, like as you're looking at it, this side right here has those white cubes storage that had a lot of stuff in them. It was double stacked too. All that had to get moved. Thank goodness you did that.
Yeah.
You had to take everything out and move them away from a railing.
But it wasn't just that, because next to that railing off camera, it was on the other side of me. So if I was looking like this, I would see the railing. There was a couple empty fish tanks that have never been stocked or anything like that. A whole bunch of other stuff. All of our giveaway boxes. So all the places that send us stuff to give to you. Those were all there, along with some pictures that we were just household pictures. I mean, there was a lot. So anyway, the point is, Monday night, I spent a couple hours getting all that stuff away because, they're now putting up the wall in Joanna's studio for the small scapes, so that it goes from a loft to a true studio, which the main reason is so that you get the extra wall for a backdrop. So now are you going to have 3 different views?
I hope they have,
if you will?
multiple, hopefully 3 different, a variety of. Yeah, plus sound deadening from the outside world, aka the dogs.
Yep.
That'll be fun. But this table came down here with you, so it came from the loft up here.
Gosh,
so you have the same,
the
same exact
setup.
setup. So we're actually looking, if we're looking here, it looks kind of the same because everything else is blacked out behind it.
Yeah. So the setup is the same. But so if you liked how we went through, and I kind of showed you the gallery and its development over the last, a few months, the breakdown and all that stuff, you're basically going to be doing the same thing, right, to a certain extent with your studio for the small scape, and showing people how you kind of take everything out and then rebuild. But those 4 tanks, they're still up and running, but we're already in the process of starting to think about which ones are staying, which ones are going, where are they going. They're not staying in your studio, right, but they're going to be broken down, and there's a lot of work to be done there. Right now we've got... I couldn't believe how fast they worked. So basically, they got there at 10 o'clock yesterday morning. And here's a funny story. You ready for this? They get there at 10 o'clock yesterday morning. I was home by 3. And they had already studded out the entire wall. And you have to remember, there's a railing there. So the other side of it kind of looks down onto the first floor. So they already had the whole thing studded out. They had the drywall up on one side, and the door was framed out. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I did that. 2 guys just in a few hours. Now, I can do certain things. I did the gallery, but I did it my way. I don't trust myself. I don't have the skill set to do something in our living room that's going to make it look professionally done. I know that. So when these guys got all that done, it was great. But here's the fun part of this. I come home, and I say hello to the guy, because I've known this guy for a long time. I coached his kids in baseball, and I go to shake his hand. He's like, oh, no, just give me a fist bump. With the other hand, I'm like, that was kind of weird. He's like, no. He shows me his hand. It's all swollen. And what he did was he was using a nail gun, and he slipped a little bit and right in his hand. And I'm like, are you okay? He's like, oh, it's fine. And this is like a tough dude. I'm like, if I had been doing that, I'd still have tears. I would still probably be on the ground. He's working. And he's like, no, it's fine. I'm like, well, how far did it go? And he's like, it's like a half an inch. No big deal. I'm like getting ready to pass out just thinking about it.
Right?
And he's like, it's fine. Then he was telling a story how one time he was holding a piece of drywall, and he had the nail gun, and his ladder, or whatever he was standing on, kind of slipped, and his ladder slipped. Did the nail gun into his hand and connected his hand to a stud behind the drywall, but now he's stuck, and he's like, and I couldn't get the hammer to get the nail out. Like when I'm probably making people like all woozy right now. It's,
right. Should have had a warning.
So luckily his buddy was there, and he took the hammer, and everything was better. So he's like, oh, this one's no big deal. I'm like, no, they were both a big deal, dude. I guess that's things that can happen when you're doing stuff. But holy cow, it was crazy. Allison, thank you so much for gifting the 5 Primetime Aquatics memberships. Really appreciate that. And now we've got Sandra hanging out here, and we've got who else? Malcolm and Jen and Jay and J-Dubs. Thank you very, very much. Really appreciate it. I think we should get into some questions. What do you think?
Yes, I have one here.
All right, hold on. Well, I've got one too, so too bad. You're going to have to wait.
Okay.
Jordan says, why does my spotted catfish keep swimming against the current from the water filter? Does he like the feeling of it? He seems to be just fine. Well, if he's just fine, he's eating fine, they will do that. Now, sometimes some fish, if they're sick, they'll get into current just because they're having a hard time obtaining oxygen. I don't necessarily know what the spotted catfish is. Is it a cory? Is it a pictus cat? Some of those more active cats really enjoy that extra flow. If it was something like maybe a cory cat, they don't necessarily like to be blown around a lot, although sometimes you will see them kind of by the return of a hang-on back filter, but I don't often find them in front of a canister filter. When we did this low boy right behind us, we've got 6 gold laser cory cats in there, and they would just do circles. And funny enough, for a while they were swimming against the current, and then they realized if we go the other direction, when we get to the backside of that low boy, the current will just blow us instead of having to swim against it, and so they switched directions. I thought that was hilarious.
It's a Raphael cat, by the way.
Raphael cat swimming it. So that is a little interesting because Raphael cats, at least ours, is extremely lazy. Now, I don't know how old yours is, but for the most part, ours has always been very, very, very stationary. So just keep an eye on it. I'm not saying that there's something wrong, but you just always want to keep an eye on a fish if it's doing something a little bit different.
Lynn went to go visit Lindsay in hospital. How's Lindsay doing? I hope she's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Aww.
Yep. Noelle says, bought my VIP tickets to Dallas Aquashella yesterday. My sister who lives in Dallas even agreed to go with me on Saturday. How cool is that? That's going to be awesome. Glad you were going to be there. We're looking forward to it. It's going to be a fun time. So
it'll be fun.
Definitely, it's coming up, and that is the 3rd weekend in May. I believe it's the 18th, 19th, I believe.
Yeah, I think that sounds about right.
When it happens. Yeah. And the only reason I know that is because not only are we missing a green water swap on that Saturday, Quad City just put out information that they're running a 6th swap.
Really?
The first time that, to my knowledge, that they're doing this, it's on the 19th.
Really?
So we're going to miss both of those. I'm like, oh, that hurt. I really like going to the swaps. And, it was one thing when we're missing one, and now somehow we're going to be missing 2. And that's sad, but you know what? It happens. Wait a minute. I heard a good evening LRB is here too, hanging out.
What?
Yeah, that's what I heard. I don't know. Maybe it's true. Maybe it's just a wishful thinking. I don't know. Let's see. M&S Aquatics says, can you breed shrimp with any other fish that won't eat the baby shrimp? That is a great question. Believe it or not, the best luck I've had breeding shrimp with fish is bristlenose plecos. So I know some people, they don't agree that. I remember Rachel O'Leary when she was here, she's like, what are you doing? You've got your bristlenose plecos in with your shrimp, your Neocaridina. And I'm like, yeah, I've done that forever. And she's like, well, she did it. She was like, oh, I don't know about that. But we've always done that. I never thought anything of it. Maybe they're consuming some of the shrimplets, but certainly not enough to put a dent in it, because we've always co-bred them in the same tank, bristlenose plecos with the shrimp. And it's generally worked out fairly well for us. So, yeah. What's so
It
funny?
sounded, when I heard it, it sounded like you said you code-redded them.
I code-read them?
Yeah.
What does that actually mean?
Code-redded them, get it? Like from A Few Good Men, code-read.
Oh,
them.
yeah,
But you said you co-bred them?
Co-bred them. Yeah. I code-redded them.
Ugh.
Do you know what a code-red is? Yeah.
Oh, no. Here we go.
Oh, I can quote A Few Good Men from beginning to end. It's true. I can do that.
It is true.
We could sit here, but then it would be boring. And you know what? You can't handle the truth. Everybody knows that line. I mean, that's whatever.
There we
go. Michael, thank you so much for being a member the last 9 months. I make it, Primetime Aquatics, I made it. Love the recent videos. Also, what substrate is the best for growing crypts, and also has Julie Corey's. So substrate for growing crypts, I have an opinion. What is yours?
Like how? What? Like what's
growing crypts.
What about them?
Substrate.
Oh, what substrate?
Yeah.
Well, we use sand with root tabs, but I have used, what is it? Is it the stratum that I used in the one tank?
Fluval stratum.
Fluval stratum. I did that in one tank, and it was for my crypt farm, and it did very well. The only problem is, unless you cap it with something like sand, it's very light and buoyant, so your plants are going to want to just whoop, pop out.
Yeah. The best luck I've ever had with crypts, with growing crypts, was in a 20-gallon in the fish room. There was fluorite substrate in there. Now, the fluorite you got to be really careful with. At least the fluorite that I got, it was a sand, but it was extremely fine grain, and it would easily suck up with a gravel vac. So it's one of those things where you got to kind of whirl it above the surface about at least a couple inches to not suck it up. But the crypts went absolutely insane in that tank. They were the best, largest crypts I've ever had, but like Joanna said, we've grown them in gravel, we've grown them in inert sand, we've used the flue ball stratum. They grow pretty well. I don't necessarily have a strong preference, but that fluorite, oh my gosh, that was definitely probably my favorite option. Grace says, what tank mates would you recommend for clown loaches? Great question. We actually have a bunch of clown loaches in this tank right here on the left-hand side over there. And we have, let's see, Geophagus are great as like your centerpiece show fish. So if you want other larger fish, provided you have the tank large enough for them, the Geophagus, the electric blue acara, we've kept them with severums. The leaf tinapoma was really cool. So in that tank over here, the fish that are swimming around in the middle, we have some rainbow fish of all different types. We've got blue turquoise, we've got Bosemani, we've got red rainbows, kurumoi, I think are in there, maybe some old Macalochi. There's a bunch of different rainbows, and they're dwarf rainbows. I think there's a few in there as well. So those have all worked out very, very well. So you've got a lot of options, provided that you've got a fairly large tank, which, I mean, with clown loaches, you're eventually going to need a really large tank, given the fact that it's going to take a long time for them to do it, but they can get somewhere around 10 to 12 inches, so they can be pretty big. MNS, thank you so much for the super chat. Really appreciate it. I didn't see a question, so look for one in case you had one, and we'll look for it, but really appreciate it. Thanks for being here, hanging out with us this fine evening. All right, let me see here. Now is the time. You can bring the questions. Lemon lizard, sand and fluval strata mix has worked really well for me. Yeah, that's a good combination.
Sure.
I think I mentioned this last week. The only thing I didn't like about the fluval stratum when you had it in that one tank is we turned it into a quarantine tank, if you remember, when you still had the nano nut.
Yes.
And then we had a bunch of fish in there, so it was overstocked. And the fish would produce a fair amount of waste in that 20 long. And that fluval stratum, when it's not capped, which originally was fine because you were primarily using it for basically a crypt or whatever rooted.
Farm.
Yeah, it was a farm. And then when we really turned it into a tank for fish, it was a nightmare. But if you're capping it, obviously that's going to be a whole lot better. Obviously, when you're capping it, you've got fish in there. I'll check this out. Brett's got the cool shirt. I love it. Love that. We just got a 75 gallon. What are your thoughts on stocking Geophagus topos, angels, discus, epistos, cribs, blue acaras, rainbow fish, bristles, and sand or gravel? So with most of those fish, I really like the sand idea. In fact, just generally speaking, that's why we did all 5 tanks in here. They've got some type of a sand because it's so much more versatile. The vast majority of fish that you keep are going to be fine with sand, but then there's always these fish that are like, well, we probably should have gone sand, but I didn't, and now we've got fish that really prefer it. So definitely with the geos, you want sand. The epistos are going to be hanging around the bottom, so that would be good. Rainbow fish don't care, bristles don't really care. The only thing that you're going to have to consider is I don't think necessarily you're going to be able to keep all of those fish in the same tank long-term together. Geophagus topos are great. They're small. They're going to max out around 5 inches, not overly aggressive. You could certainly I could see a tank where you've got one topos, one angelfish. The epistos can be a little tricky with the Geophagus just because sometimes they're going to do a little bit of battle. Sometimes they don't. The electric blue acara is fine. The rainbow fish would be pretty cool, whether it's the dwarfs or the standard. Pick a couple of your favorites. The bristles are fine. I guess the only thing that really stands out is the discus. And I wonder if that discus is going to get, of all the fish that you're talking about, body size, it's going to it is going to be the largest. Not so worried about aggression. I've seen those fish kept together. We've been to a number of places where we've seen them kept together longer term. And I think 2 of the places in Wisconsin, they always kept that fish, minus the cribs and the blue acaras, and the epistos, but the larger ones they kept together. But maybe the discus is the only one I might think twice about in that particular thing. What you got?
You see Shelly Gagnon? Did you see that?
I did not.
New welcome
Wow,
to
no,
Prime
hold on. See, this is
Time
why.
Partner.
Yeah, I don't necessarily like
You're
all
going
of
the
these
wrong way.
screens.
You have to go
Oh,
down.
I'm stuck over here.
There
Okay,
you
so
go.
hold on. Let me go over to this one.
No.
Oh, I'm still going.
Yep,
I'm
nope, you
still.
just passed
What
it.
the heck is going on here, man? Oh, Shelly, yeah, thank you so much. Really appreciate you hanging out with us, being a prime
Yeah,
timer. Yep, that's why
welcome.
you're here. You get to do that part of it too.
Thank you. I'll try.
And you don't
Okay.
have to leave early tonight because
No, I don't.
our youngest is in. He's not in his normal Wednesday thing because
Nope.
he's got volleyball tryouts all week, and
Mhm.
he's a sophomore. He's just started playing volleyball last year and really loved it. And I didn't realize how crazy.
Oh my gosh,
like,
that's,
stressful it is.
volleyball is
Like, it's nonstop action. I'd never
fast-paced.
actually seen a volleyball game until he started playing last year, and then it was just like, holy cow, your stomach is in knots the entire time. And his team, as a freshman, not that it's a huge deal because it's not like it's varsity or something, but his freshman team went undefeated
Yeah.
last year. They won every season game. A couple of the tournaments they lost a game, I think, but it's kind of exciting. So now it's all happening again. All right, let me see here. Smashing says, my cherry shrimp were orange in the store. Then it turned yellow when I was acclimating them and put them in my tank. Then they turned orange after around an hour. What happened? The orange to yellow could have been a little bit of stress. Sometimes, just like fish, the shrimp will lose a little bit of color. If the water parameters change, if the temperature changes, if they're a little bit stressed, they can lose a little color. Also, just like fish, although not as much, the substrate color and the background color
Yeah.
will matter a little bit as well.
Lighting.
So
I wonder if
light,
lighting-
absolutely. Lighting is another thing that can impact the color of your shrimp. But as long as they're active and they're eating and doing all the normal shrimp things,
Maybe they were just changing outfits.
that could be as well. They could just be hanging out. Oh, but actually, no joke. If they were in the middle of a molt, because sometimes switching them up and all that stuff, that can cause them to molt as well. So that, although it wouldn't be that fast, it wouldn't go from like, one color to the next. Mac, thank you so much for gifting the 5 Primetime Aquatics memberships. We got more. We got Rebecca. We got M9. We got, oh my gosh, now Elfish, Isaiah. Thank you very much. Again, and then we've got Bart as well. So thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Gonna have one old big giant party, a huge party tomorrow.
Shamu Aquarium says, "Are you even a real fish keeper if you've never accidentally killed a plant or fish?" Well, with
Yeah.
experience, stuff like that's going to happen.
Oh,
And I
man,
can
yeah.
tell you that you are not a gardener until you kill a plant at least 3 times. And then it'll just survive, or you just move on to a different plant. Same thing goes for the underwater plants.
Yeah. Oh, you're
You
gonna
know?
kill plants and fish.
You
are gonna die.
will.
That's just
right.
That is just what happens.
Mhm.
There's no way around it. They're living things.
Yeah.
Right? Paige says, what is your recommendation for active fish for a 65 gallon that makes it like watching a TV? That's a good. Let me think about that for
Color?
a second. So, active fish in a 65. Well, I mean, there's a lot of options. If you want small fish, you've got endless. You've got guppies. You've got platies. Tons, and they're non-stop. Easy to keep. Obviously, they're, a lot of people call them beginner fish, although I don't necessarily think that that's a great label. I think that they are, can be, depending on where you get them, hardy fish. But all of those are really good options. What else we got for the colorful, active fish?
Can I say
Besides
it?
that.
But I think they make a perfect TV.
And what is that?
The green neon.
Maybe, but
A
they're
bunch of
also
them.
in a 65
Would be
gallon.
beautiful.
I'm assuming that 65 gallon is probably the 40 breeder, only taller. So is it the 3-foot tank by 18 and a half by, well, I don't know how tall that thing is, but it's pretty tall, 20 something inches tall.
Rummy nose would be amazing.
Rummy knows what?
Rhizoboras.
Not active enough, because we want fish that are active, right? So they're
guess,
very,
but
very
they have beautiful
inactive,
color.
but they have awesome color. Small like the dwarf rainbows would be really cool. They have a lot of shimmer,
Yes.
right?
True.
You could do some of the
I know.
the smaller rainbows like the pseudomogil. We've got the Gertrude rainbows, the Pascal rainbows, furcatas, fork tails, thread fins. All of those are really cool.
Shiners.
Oh, good call. Rainbow shiners, tons of color,
Shimmer,
fairly active. Yep. So you've definitely got some some options there.
Yeah.
Huntress says, I'm currently dealing with ick and made the mistake of removing the sick fish. Should I just add the sick fish back into the original tank and treat that one instead of both? Yeah, that's what I would do. And listen, you recognized it right away, so we all learn over time and do things like, oh man, maybe I shouldn't have approached whatever you're doing in a certain way. But yeah, I would just put the sick fish back in, because at this point you're going to have to treat both tanks anyway. You could leave it. If you put it in a hospital tank, you could treat both. Right? So there is an argument to be made. If that was the only fish that was showing the signs of ick, you could certainly make a strong argument. Why not just leave the fish in the quarantine tank, since that's the one that is definitely going to be, as soon as those ick parasites fall off, they got a cyst around them right now, they're going to fall off into the substrate, but you're going to have to treat both tanks, whether it's the hospital. I mean, the hospital tank, you don't necessarily have to treat. If you just drain the water, dry it out, the ick parasite's going to go away. But you're definitely going to want to treat the original tank and just assume that all the fish were exposed, just as I explain it in the ick video for dealing with that.
Eli, that's our youngest name. Our aquarium filter cartridges a scam. I keep buying them and was wondering if there was a better way.
Yeah, there's a better way. So I've done a couple videos on how to, I don't remember exactly how I titled it, but basically if you were to go into my catalog of filter videos, somewhere in there's something about saving money on filter media or inexpensive filter media. So we don't use the cartridges and the hang-on back filters that we've had probably for the last, 12, 15 years, maybe longer. What we do, there's a couple of different ways you can do this, and you don't need a cartridge. And it doesn't matter what hang-on back filter you have. So a lot of people will make the argument that maybe something like the AquaClear or the Seachem Tidal, because they have that self-contained basket, that they're going to be the filters that you can use aftermarket or just bulk filter floss. But I found you can use that stuff in any filter, whether it's an Aquarium, a Top Fin, a Marine Land. It doesn't really matter what the filter is. But in all cases, you can just get bulk filter floss. You can get it off of Amazon. You can get it we've gotten it from gemco.com. Not sponsored. Love that company. Gemco.com is awesome. I used to buy, so it's funny because I went with the blue, it's called blue bonded sheet. One side of it's blue, another side is more of like the white floss. And I used a lot of that, and then I just decided to go with the even cheaper, just bulk filter floss. It's just all white. And I was using that for a long time, but then what I found is, well, that bulk filter floss, you use it for a couple weeks, it starts to get kind of mushy. It does a good job, but then it's just squeeze it out in the sink, get it kind of so it's not sopping wet, right in the garbage it goes, replace it. It's super cheap. So you can do that. But then I went back to the blue bonded sheet because what I love about it is you cut it out. First of all, it stays upright. It's because of that blue part, it will stay upright in your filter. So it's got more rigidity. So it's not just kind of sagging in your filter compartment, which I really like. Plus, that stuff, you can take it to the sink, rinse it off in tap water, get all the brown stuff off, and reuse it. And we've been able to reuse that stuff. I mean, sometimes we're like 6 or 8 weeks with the same blue bonded filter floss. Either way, it's going to save you an insane amount of money relative to buying those cartridges. Yes, they are almost wholly and completely worthless. If you want, one of the pro tips that I would do is if you've got a proprietary filter cartridge, usually there's like a plastic backbone to it. You take all the filter media out. If there's activated carbon stuck in there, dump that out in the garbage and just keep that plastic part. And then you can put the filter floss against the plastic part, slide it back in. That will also help the filter media to stay in the proper position in your hang-on back filter. But I absolutely would never recommend buying those filter cartridges again because it just doesn't need to be done.
Steel Waves finally got green neons and says,
Nice.
I am in love.
Very
Aren't they
cool.
beautiful?
Yep. They are cool fish, and we have them in our
Yes,
fish
they
room
are.
for sure.
I can't wait to give them their forever home up in the studio.
Yep, that's coming. We've had them in a kind of, we've got 2 tanks in our fish room right now that are kind of catch-all tanks. One of them is a 40 breeder that, we pulled a bunch of fish out of this side when we had 40 tanks, and we've still got some fish in the catch-all tank. And then we've got the 125 where some of the larger fish that we had to move around are in there right now.
Mm-hmm.
Demar's, oh my gosh, on a roll. 5 more gifted memberships. Wow. Thank you. Really appreciate it. Eric and Foxy and Yinzers and Spaghetti and Chris are all new prime timers. Thank you. Really appreciate it. That is
That's
awesome.
so
I hope
sweet.
everybody appreciates it. the generosity, and I hope you enjoy the experience too. So let me see. I saw.
While you're looking, second floor says, I guess that Ryan's a true farmer because he kills every plant he touches. I guess so,
Nice.
Shannon.
Yeah, a farmer plus a gardener, and yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. Regina, do you have low flow and lots of light for your salvinia? Low flow is definitely a thing, right? Because any floating plant is gonna
Yep.
probably not like, and I don't care if it's salvinia. It's a lot of people ask about duckweed, how to keep duckweed from overrunning a tank. You want a really fast way, provided the fish can handle it. You put a wave maker in there, duckweed is never going to deal. It's just not going to be able to deal with that.
Yeah.
Any time where we've had tanks with higher flow, the duckweed doesn't survive, salvinia dies out, the frog bit would die, hornwort, guppy grass, that stuff does not like to be blown around. A lot of people complain, man, I had hornwort in my tank and it all died. And I always ask, well, what was the flow like? And if the flow is high, that stuff doesn't like that at all.
Yeah.
So as far as lights, I don't know if we haven't done anything special with lights to keep the salvinia alive, right? I mean, it's just most of our standard aquarium lights. We've got a whole bunch of different brands up in here. So, yeah. Ben Oatchart's in the house. What's up, my man?
Hi, Ben.
Glad you're hanging out with us this fine evening. Appreciate you being here. All right. What you got?
Message from Jay Oliver.
What's
go.
up? What's up?
Did you pass it?
I have no idea. Hold on a second, because, man, I'm really not digging this big screen. Jay Oliver's been a member for the last 20 months. Thanks, man. Appreciate being here. By the way, I saw your guppies on Facebook. Looking good. Yeah, he's got a lot of guppies. Lots of guppies. And they were looking awesome. Hey, Fish Family, see you guys in Dallas. Awesome. I can't wait to see you in Dallas.
Yay.
Every time I see Jay Oliver, you have to understand something. He saved my life one time. I mean, not literally saved it, but came pretty close. We were in Dallas.
Yep. That was last year.
Yeah, was it last year in Dallas? I can't remember.
So.
Everything blends together, but we're in Dallas. We leave. We drive, right? So we've been driving everywhere. We were a solid hour 15, maybe hour and a half away. And all of a sudden, people are blowing up my phone. And finally, I look at it's Jay Oliver. I'm like, hey, man, what's up? He's like, so do you have a green camera bag? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, do you have it with you? I'm like, as soon as he said that, I realized, oh my gosh, I left it in Dallas at that venue and they were breaking everything down. Thankfully, he found it. And I don't know how he made the connection that it was mine, but I was so thankful because we had a whole lot of camera equipment in it that was pretty darn expensive. And he
had to wait. He had to
and
wait
that's
there
the other thing too. Yeah,
at the end of a long day for us to get back there.
Because he was doing the setup and the breakdown, and so I had to turn all the way around. Like I said, we were a solid hour and 15, hour and a half going all the way back to Dallas. It was late Sunday evening by the time we got there. Then turn around, backtrack back to our hotel. But yeah, that was a night to remember. Allison, thank you for being a member the last 3 months. Saw a 33 long on Facebook Marketplace, and you said I should snag it up if I saw one. Would this be a good tank to set up for Rainbow's filtration? Absolutely. Yeah, 33 longs. For those of you who don't know, they don't make them anymore.
Pretty.
And they were, when we had this as a fish room, they were the tanks that were kind of set up over here. We had 3 of them. We had them triple stacked, but they're the same length, 4 foot length, 12.5 inches wide. So they're the same length and width as a 55, but they're only a foot tall. I love the look of those tanks. That's why we had 3 of them. And that would be an outstanding tank for Rainbows because they're going to still get that 4 foot length. They don't use the height all that much. Filtration gets a little bit tricky just because now you've got a pretty short tank. So you've got a couple options. Because of the height of that tank, it's only 12 inches. I would actually think about, oh boy, we got to be really careful here. I don't know 100% if the Seachem Tidal 35 will fit on that tank, right? The plastic rim. I don't know. And I don't think I ever tried it. And the only reason why I'm hesitant is because if that that frame is the same thickness as a 55, one of the downsides of the Seachem Tidals is when you attempt to put a smaller Seachem Tidal on a tank that is larger, like the 55s on a 75, the Seachem Tidal 35 on a 55. Sometimes there's not enough space. Sometimes there's not enough space between the motor housing that goes in the tank and the back of the filter box. It's worth a try, maybe, if you were to pick one up. if you get the 33 long, go run to a local store, buy a Seachem Title 35, see if it will fit over the rim of that tank. And if it does, I would do 2. It doesn't have an intake, but that's okay because that tank is so short. If it doesn't fit, I would still prefer to run 2 filters on that 4-foot tank, especially on that one. Then you're either looking at the Seachem Title 55 or the Marineland Pro, maybe 175s or 275s would work. So those would be, I definitely would run 2 filters on the 33 long for sure.
We got a question.
You got a question? What kind of a question?
Yeah, super
Blake,
chat.
thank you so much. Super chat, appreciate it. Had about a Vic the past week and a 55 gallon that wiped out my cardinals. Not cool. And my otos. Yeah, I know that. It's so hard to treat both of those fish. So trust me, I can tell you right now, it's really hard to keep cardinals and otos alive once ick happens. They don't like being meted. The cardinals don't mind the higher temperatures, but they don't like salt. Neither do the otos. They're not the best with the meds. I've been treating tank since. Everything else seems fine. When am I free to return tank to normal and add fish? All right, so what I would do is, and I kind of explained this in the video that I did, whatever meds you're using, keep using them. Keep the concentrations up to the recommended dosage. Keep the temperatures up. Again, ideally, if you've got fish in there that can handle the 84, 85, if you go much above 85, 86, 87, you'll kill the ick just with the temperatures. The problem is some of those fish don't survive that. So that's why I always do like 83 to 85, where I'm not quite killing the ick, but I'm keeping the temperatures high enough to really speed up the life cycle of the ick. Makes the meds work a lot better. And so what I do is I leave the temperatures elevated. I leave the ick meds in, and I go at least a week past the point that I've seen the last white spot on any of the fish. And so I shouldn't be seeing any more clamped fins. I shouldn't be seeing any more white spots. I wait at least 7 days. Sometimes I'll go even longer. Sometimes I'll go 10 days before I slowly start bringing those temperatures back down to whatever you're normally keeping your tank at, 76, 77, 78, somewhere in there. And then people ask all the time, well, then do you take the meds out right away and do like these huge water changes? I don't. So what I will do is I will just change out the water as I would normally do. So if it required a 30% water change, I would do that. And then slowly that med concentration will be brought back down as well. So that's kind of how I roll with that, just to make life a little bit easier. But yeah, wait at least 7 days before you start thinking about reducing the med concentration again. Michael, thank you so much for gifting the 5 prime. I mean, you know what? By the time we get done with this live stream, I think we're just going to have like all prime timers here with everybody being so generous. Thank you. That is very generous. That's awesome. I really like that too, because then like everybody benefits from that. People get to see what it's all about. So we got William, we got Larry, we got Shark Fin, we've got Tank Commander. That's a cool name. And Mitty.
It is. I like that
all
name.
hanging out with us. Thank you so much for being a prime timer, and thank you for doing that. That was pretty stinking awesome. Really appreciate it. And then we got Brett here. Thank you for the super chat. Are 75 gallons too small for Discus in general? And instead of the Geos, would you be able to do Discus and Tetras in a 75? That's a great question. I personally think, and I think there'll be people out there that might semi-disagree with me. The thing is, I've seen Discus get so huge. When I did that species profile on Discus and I highlighted that 3,000 gallon tank. Now, you don't need a 3,000 gallon tank. Nowhere close. But the Discus didn't look huge in that aquarium because everything else was so huge. So, for instance, the cardinal tetras were full grown, almost, inch and 3/4 cardinal tetras, 2 inches. The rummy nose tetras were full grown, everything in that tank. The Discus were like the size of my face. They were massive fish. So when you start thinking about putting Discus in a 75, and I'm looking at these Discus that are full grown, for me, I think minimally I would want a 125, even better a 150, because that's a fish that does benefit from the taller tanks. Now, I have seen people keep some in a 90 gallon because, again, that tank is a little bit taller. They don't look quite so smashed, kind of compressed when they're in a shorter tank like a 75. So, yeah, I do kind of prefer the Discus in a taller tank. Either like a 90 would be my bare minimum, or going straight up to the 6-foot tank, the 125. That's kind of where I'm at with it. Yeah. So, yeah, that's the 75 gallon. Might be a little small. I think you're better off with the geophagus, and you won't be sad. Trust me, you will not be sad with the geophagus and the angelfish. And the angelfish will, again, you might have to thin out the herd a little bit because they're cichlids, but it can work.
This is a good question.
It is.
Sure, we've all been here. All right, Shamu Aquariums asks, what's the possible reason that I can't keep the hardy tiger barbs and serpe tetras alive, yet the notoriously sensitive roseline sharks thrive in my tanks?
So here's an interesting thing. I've actually not found the roseline sharks to be sensitive. We bring them in all the time. And I mean, we've got another shipment coming in this week for the swaps that are happening next month. And I have found them to be one of the hardiest fish out there. And I think part of it is where we get our roseline sharks from. I mean, they come in, they are fish that we very rarely lose any of them. And the people that we sell them to, they're like, oh my gosh, the roseline sharks are so awesome. So I think what happens is somewhere in the supply chain, the roseline sharks might be getting sick or pulling in some type of a parasite or getting overly stressed. And when you compress that shipping process, when like we do, we cut out basically 2 steps between, we cut out the wholesaler and we cut out the pet store. I think they don't stress as much. So anyway, all that to say, I don't think the roselines are necessarily a sensitive fish, but the tiger barbs, and what was the other one? The serpe?
Yeah.
The thing with the tiger barbs is when they're really small, same thing with serpes, I actually do find them to be somewhat sensitive. And then once they get past about 1.5 inches or so, much more hardy. That's when you're like, oh my gosh, my tiger barbs have been around for 8-9 years. But you do have to get them past that small point. The other thing too is because they're so incredibly active, sometimes if there's any issues with water flow or O2 concentrations, sometimes they suffer a little bit there. Sometimes they're a little hard on one another, so they stress one another out, especially if they're kept in smaller groups. And the serpe tetra would be similar to that, where they will be a little bit rough on one another, and they wind up stressing each other out, which is kind of a weird thing, but it can happen.
Stocking question.
Got it. Let's do it.
All right. Smashing Gaming. Rate this stocking option.
Okay.
All right. This is in a heavily planted 10-gallon.
Okay.
Ready?
Yep.
Sure.
No.
Okay. 7 embers, 1 honey gourami, and 13 neocaridina shrimp. Is that overstocked?
Not at all.
No.
I don't think it's overstocked. And I think it's a crazy cool combination. So the embers, we talked about the embers before. Is the honey gourami a yellow or a standard? Doesn't say.
No.
The yellows really pop with the orange.
Great
with
combo.
The orange embers.
Yeah.
And you might lose some shrimplets to the honey gourami, but I guess that's just kind of sometimes to be expected, you know.
No,
but
my honey gouramis have always been very, very shy, so I wouldn't have doubted that mine would have been afraid of shrimplets.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, what are those creepy crawly things? They're freaking me out over here, right? Next thing you know, they're all in the corner. Why is my honey gourami in the corner? Is it being bullied by a fish? No, it's really scared by the shrimp.
Yeah.
I could see that happening. Mike, thank you so much for being a member the last 9 months or so. No question today. Just want to say that my panda cory babies are growing big and strong. That's cool. That's awesome. Cory cats, very awesome. Love seeing those fish give little babies. They're so cute. They're like little miniatures. MNC has been a member for the last 8 months. Thank you so much. Got to say the gallery looks great. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Like I said, we will have the full tour out on Sunday, so you can see the up close and personal, like I said, the fish and what's been going on. Some of the fish are great. Some of them
and
we've struggled with a little bit, but
too bad we can't have this, but it is gracing our official.
Yes, it is.
Our little coasters, which we are using, and I already caught him using them upstairs in the living room. I said, no, these are for the studio downstairs.
But I wanted to use them upstairs. What's wrong with that?
Oh, I'm gonna have to change this now. This is the gallery. When we're referring to different spaces, I'm gonna have to call it the gallery instead of the studio, because this isn't really the studio.
Yeah,
it's
you
the gallery.
have the studio. This is the gallery. The fish room's over there.
Yeah,
Studio, gallery, fish room.
No, I don't think mine's gonna be called the studio though.
I'm calling it that.
You can call it that, but it's gonna have a different name.
We've already established it. Ben says a group of roseline sharks is on my wish list for 2024. Yeah. It's the craziest thing. I've got one in the 125 with my Viejas and Spilum. He's a bigger fish now. and it was a leftover from, I think, a group that I had brought in. I'm like, oh, what am I going to do with this? Somehow, I know what it was. We thought we had cleared out the Roseline quarantine tank when we brought everything to the swap. And then, as sometimes happens, one of them was hiding behind something, and whoever was responsible for catching the Roselines didn't see that. So I'm like, well, and then we had more fish coming. I'm like, well, I can't just leave this thing here. So I chucked it in the 125, and it got big. And I need to, at some point when I bring in more, because I always say I'm going to do this, and I always forget to leave back 4 or 5 so that he's got some buddies. Because Roseline sharks should be in a group. I've got one. It's weird, but whatever.
Evan wants to know, what's the largest tank that you've owned?
150. So it's the largest tank that we can fit down here. And it was funny because Whip came here to pick up the 150. It's now his tank. So we were, he's still got that bad boy. And Whip has always been on my backside. He's like, you got to get bigger tanks. And then he realized everything I had ever said after it took 4 human beings to get the 150 up out of this gallery and upstairs. It was not fun. It was one stair at a time. It took some thought. And after every step, we took a couple breaths, and we're like, okay. And then we get to the turn. So my stairs in the gallery, like right there are the stairs, and they go up about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stairs, and then they do the whole, like the U-turn, and then they go back up this way about another 5 stairs. Well, getting tanks around the stairs, then you've got the cutoff for the ceiling. 6-foot tank is as tall as I can go. Believe me, I would much rather those two 125s. If they could be 180s, I would be a much happier human being, because on the 6-foot side, those are my favorite of the semi-common tanks. I like the 125s, don't get me wrong, but even the 180, because it's now 2 feet wide instead of 18.5 inches, we could do it probably, but it would be such a colossal pain. So, and there is no way I'm getting anything bigger. I mean, maybe a 180, maybe. I could probably mock one up out of like 1x1s and just see, okay, well, how would we do that? I've thought about it. No, it doesn't matter, because I'm not taking all this stuff down and rebuilding more stands. I'm like, no, we made the commitment. The only thing I could ever do with these is change the 125s into 150s, because it's the same length and width, but ain't going to happen. So the 150 is the largest, and that was a 4-foot 150. The rest of them are 125s. Okay. You look like you had something to say.
Yeah, there was a stocking.
Hold on. Ken says, by the way, that is the awesome little circle thing. Got the Harley bar and shield in there.
Nice.
Yep. Question, getting back into the hobby, 40 breeder or 65 gallon, pros and cons of both. Great question. So the 65 is the same length and width, as you know, as a 40 breeder. The 65 is just taller. So if you have fish that are going to be using the mid and upper waters, so if you're interested in things like half beaks, hatchet fish, some of those fish that like to stay at the top, that could be kind of interesting. Almost any type of live bear, your guppies, your endlers, your platies, mollies, sword tails, tiger limia, they're going to use all areas of the tank because they're just absolutely crazy. They just go all over the place. If you are someone who's got long arms, you will like the 65 gallon, because it is, you've got an extra 15 gallons up there. I don't remember exactly what the added height is, but I want to say it's like 5 or 6 inches taller than the 40 breeder. So keep that in mind. If you are somebody who thinks at some point you'd like to double stack tanks, now you're saying you're just getting into the hobby again, so I don't think necessarily that's on the forefront of your mind.
Probably not.
But double stacking 40 breeders is a lot easier to do. However, again, there is something to be said for having that extra height and being able to build levels, Jerry, levels. So for me, we've got 40 breeders. We have 6 of them now. At one point, I had 8, and we're down to 6. But could I put 65s on the top of? Actually, I could put 65s even on. I'm looking in the fish room on the bottom side, on the bottom level as well. I just don't know if I would do it, because that extra height does make it hard to work on the tanks.
All right, ready for stacking?
No.
Okay.
But I will be in a minute. Ross, thank you so much for being a member the last 30 months. Love the new background. Thank you so much. I am just glad it is mostly complete, other than a few aesthetic things. Cody, thank you very much for the super chat. What are your top 5 most overrated fish and top 5 underrated fish from both of us? Wow.
Oh,
okay.
wow.
So top 5 underrated and top 5 overrated.
I got to write this down. Take your time.
Whew, boy, all right, hold on a second, because I really want to think about that one. That's an outstanding question. Top 5, let's go with the overrated fish. I'll probably offend at least 5 people here with whatever I say, but I don't know if overrated would necessarily apply. Like fish people love that I don't feel as strongly about.
Boy, that would be
It
really
is hard to because
Are there any that you generally dissuade people from getting?
well, but usually for logical reasons like tinfoil
Yeah.
barbs, ballast sharks.
There you go.
Okay, here's one. Silver dollar.
Yeah.
I think is
Yeah, because
but I
they're
don't even know
yucky
if we
looking.
can call it overrated. No, I think they're cool looking, but I'm not
They
so
scare
sure
me.
people are like, oh, those fish are the awesomest fish ever. But I would say those are 3 that you got to be really careful with. So tinfoil barbs, ballast sharks, silver dollars. Tinfoil barbs and ballast sharks because they're really super active. They need to be kept in groups. They're really big. I would never get those fish again unless I had at least an 8-foot tank. Silver dollars, we actually have a group in the 125, and I hadn't had them in a long time, and now I think there's 6 of them in the 125, which used to be over here on this side when we have this side of the fish room, and I'm reminded about how skittish those fish are, even more so than the tinfoil barbs and silver dollars. They're just constant like, hey, what's going on? I'm a little nervous, and they're bumping into things, and they fin nip one another more than I remembered when I had them last. So that's one where I'm like, I probably wouldn't do that one again, even though, I mean, they're cool looking. I just, man, and maybe it's just my setups, but yeah. So I got 3 of those. You got any overrated, like fish where you're like, man, I don't know why everybody likes this fish?
I would only say guppies because if you have males and females, it would just stress me out knowing that, you're going to be getting a lot more guppies real soon.
Okay.
That's the only thing I could think of, and that's just more of like a maintenance sort of issue. They're cool.
Yep.
Now, if I would do it, I would probably just do a few males in a very particular scape.
Okay.
That's just
So I could definitely see that. Underrated. Now that's one where I could probably go on for a very long time. The tiger limia, I just put a YouTube short out. I've always thought those fish were underrated. As a live bear, I think they're one of my favorites because they have like a true green gold color, but there's a lot of green in them that I really like. Love their personalities. Other underrated fish. Oh boy. A lot of the barbs. So what I found interesting is in this last go around when I brought fish in the last couple times, I brought in melon barbs, mascara barbs, the 8-banded barb, the volcano barb. So I don't know why I went barb heavy, but so many of those fish get a bad rap for being fin nippers, mostly because the tiger barbs they cause so many problems. And it was like, wow, these 8-banded barbs are cool. They're totally chilled out. They're not fin nippy. They're not hard on one another. The melon barbs had outstanding personality. The mascara barbs are magnificent. We still have a half a dozen here in the fish room, and if they don't sell at the swap, I'm keeping them. So
Okay.
I did put them on the website, the mascara barbs, but they're majestic fish. The volcano barbs, super rare. So I would say those are all very, very underrated fish. And if you've got a decent setup for them in the right size tank, they're amazing. What about you? You got underrated?
Yes, the green
Oh,
neon.
for crying out loud. You know what?
Oh, because it is.
That's an
I think-
overrated fish.
No, because most people just think of them as common. Like, oh, it's just the green neon. Oh, I used to have them,
Yeah.
or everybody gets them. But you know what? No, because they're like 3 different colors in one, and they're amazing. So there you go.
Yeah, they're lightish blue, light red, and kind of
You
silvery.
don't even see the red. You see
Totally
shades of
overrated.
green, blue,
She overrates
turquoise, purple.
They're actually a 4 out of 10. No, I'm kidding. They're decent fish. I do like them. They're just
Do you see
definitely,
hearts over my head? Because there are hearts over my head.
They're just not. When it comes to the neons, I'm sorry. I know we're gonna.
They're
have to
more
just,
for
can we
me.
just we can just agree to
Oh,
disagree,
I don't
right?
care if you have a bad opinion.
Oh, I don't have a bad opinion. I like them. I think they're very hardy.
just
But
wrong.
of
It's a
all
wrong
the neon
opinion.
varieties, they're probably in my last place.
I know that's why they're underrated, and that's why I said I feel that they're underrated. Move on.
No, it's okay. You
Move
can
along.
love them though.
I will.
I know
and
people
you know
love
what?
them, and it's
I love
it's
the
cool.
underdogs too.
You do.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.
Guess who
Yeah.
was rooting for them all the times that they made it to the Super Bowl?
Yeah, back in the 90s, that worked out well.
I know.
But it's okay. Andy, thank you so much for being a member the last 18 months. Love the new fish room and see you on Saturday at the Green Water Swap. Looking forward to it. Yep, it should be a lot of fun. good times because we're kind of coming up to the end of the swap season, believe it or not. I mean, we're only in March, but a lot of the swaps, they stop happening in the summertime, with the exception, at least for us around here. Green water runs through the summer, which I think is awesome, but a lot of the other swaps, not so much.
Just, you know.
Oh yeah,
Oink,
here we go.
Oink and Cheryl gave me some green neon
Listen,
love.
I like green neons.
I
I'm
know.
just saying, if I had to pick,
I know.
if I had to
Most
pick
people,
all the neon
most people
types,
wouldn't pick them first, and that's fine.
I mean, because you've got kind of a lot now. You got, all right, so you have the kind of a different fish, but you got the black neon, the green neon, the standard. I include the cardinal tetra in all this because it's basically a very similar looking fish. You have the diamond head that we have in this 125
Those are
over
cool.
here.
I
Yeah,
would like to
those.
pair them with my green neons.
Diamond head neons. What else? We got the albinos, right? The gold neon.
Which we've never had either
No,
of those.
and then
I'm
you've got
just
some of
saying.
the long fin varieties. Flip Aquatics just had the long fin. Was it the long
Yes,
fin
did you
standard
see?
neon?
Yes.
Yeah, that fish
long
looked
fin.
pretty darn cool. I can't lie.
I want
Right.
them.
Yeah, it was a pretty impressive looking fish.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. MSSB says, congratulations on the gallery. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm happy that
Yay.
we've kind of gotten this thing up and running, and finally we can turn our attention to the fish room, which is kind of messing right now. I'm not going to lie. There's some hoses. So if you want the lowdown, if you want me to spill the tea, as they say, I've never actually said that out loud. It sounds lame coming from a 50-year-old dude, but
It really does.
yeah, it's kind of like when your boy Jason is here coming at you live with your girl Joanna. Yep, I included you. Oh, she's going to hit me. Don't hit me. Don't hit me. She hates that. I mean, she like legit hates it.
I really do. It's
Yeah.
like nails on a chalkboard.
Yep.
Mm.
Hoss the boss. Cool. Super chat. Thank you so much. What's the 3 best algae eaters? I tried the plecos, but was aggressive. Some plecos, yeah, can be aggressive. Depends on the size of your tank. In fact, we did a video, best algae eaters. If you go Primetime Aquatics, best algae eaters, you search for that, it should pop up. And we organized it by the size of the aquarium. And we talk about the pros and cons of each. I would say for very small tanks, you've got snails, right?
Sure.
So you got the neorites, you've got the
Yeah.
mystery snails that can, and by the way, some of these algae eaters, they will eat different types of algae. So small tanks, you got your 2.5s, your 5 gallons, your 10 gallons. A lot of times the mystery snails and neorite snails will work just fine. Then you start, you want
Monos.
a mono shrimp, yeah, but again, those will work with the green hair algae really well.
Depends what fish you have, though.
Yep, depends on what fish you have, depends on the size. So a mono shrimp are an option for really, for smaller tanks or really small fish. You've got, for the pleco side of things, you've got the clown plecos. We have those in numerous tanks in here that will eat some algae. We have, so the Mbuna tank right over there, that tank, believe it or not, the whole background that you can kind of see, it's gray because it's got that rock background. Within about 2 weeks, it was covered, and I mean covered in brown diatom algae. It was all over the sides of the glass. It was on the wood. So I had Eli take from our bristlenose breeding tank. I'm like, hey, grab 3 bristlenose plecos, chuck them in there because I don't want to look at this. And within 2 days, it was spotless. I didn't touch any of that. It was literally spotless because there was, within 1 day, we put them in there at night. I woke up the next morning, they had half the rocks completely cleaned off. And then by day 2, everything was spotless. So as they get a little bit older, do they eat as much algae? Not necessarily. But when you have a tank that has some competition for food, they do, because they have to graze on surfaces. And so it's a fine line. I still feed them, right? So we don't want to let our bristlenose plecos and our scavenging fish starve to death, hoping that they'll eat small amounts of algae, because when they get larger, that's not enough for them. But where you have, especially in the cichlid tanks, where there's a fair amount of food competition, they will continue to eat algae. Otocinclus, I like to keep them in 20 gallons if you've got smaller fish, because they need to be in a group, best with softer water. What else we got on the algae eating side? Sailfin mollies, especially for green hair algae. They love that stuff, but they get big, and the males especially can get a little bit aggressive. Siamese algae eaters. I think I mentioned this at the beginning of the live stream. They're about to be dispersed throughout our gallery here, because I got a couple hundred of them that I brought in for the swaps. They're past quarantine. And so we've got some blackbeard algae in the low boy. We've got a little bit in the 125 there. I don't freak out about it. I know a lot of people, when they get blackbeard algae, they like lose their stuff about it. I don't, because I know keeping the water parameters in check, keeping your lights in check. So what did I do with the low boy? When we got blackbeard algae in here, these these AI prime lights. All the lights in here are from Aqua Illumination, really, really high quality lights, and very, very adjustable. And so especially these AI primes on these goosenecks on the 50-gallon lowboy, believe it or not, this tank is at, I think at this point, max, there's like 8 different settings, 7 or 8 different settings. The maximum setting I have on some of the lights is 30%. Some of it's down to like 15%, so I turn the lights way down, making sure we're getting our water changes in there to make sure we're controlling nitrate. One of the things that we could possibly do, and I thought about it, is maybe putting some hornwort in there to compete. But the Siamese algae eaters are definitely going in there. I'm going to disperse 2 or 3 of them in there, let them do
Little
their
army.
thing.
Little special ops.
Yep. The fun thing will be if I have to get them out of there, because good luck. I'm going to have to sneak up on them at that point. Yep. So anyway, those are some options.
Oh, and thanks to Robin and Sharpie for those beautiful green hearts.
Oh boy, we got the crew, huh? Coming back at you.
And a couple of you have noted, I think Robin and Noel, cherry barbs, underrated, beautiful fish. And just like you, Cheryl, I want to, at some point.
Cherry barbs are great. Absolutely.
I would love to get them somewhere. They're beautiful.
But
Or isn't that the fish that we saw at the one tank? Remember when we walked right in, the one in up north?
I don't know.
It was right as soon as the little fish store in like Northbrook area. Remember?
What fish are we talking about?
Cherry barbs.
I see cherry barbs everywhere. Every
But
pet
it
store's
was
got
a-
cherry barbs.
I know, but it was a very
They all got cherry
particular.
barbs.
It was a very particular scape, and they were like popping.
Maybe. I don't know.
All right.
I'm not sure. Ben, thank you so much for the super chat. Really appreciate it. Appreciate you hanging out with us. You go do your thing.
Yeah.
Glad you were here. Very glad you were here. All right, what else we got going on here in the land of crazy questions? Mike says, if you can attend the Greenwater Swap on the 9th, Saturday, and would like to pre-order some fish, yeah, go to primetimeaquatics.com. Definitely. We've got all kinds of cool stuff. We've got rasboras.
Yes.
We've got Siamese algae eaters. We've got red-tailed botia, which are almost gone, but we've got rainbow shiners. We have
Beautiful.
stuff. I mean, we got a bunch of stuff. I can't keep track of it all. We even got some geophagus on there. Some Cerenamensis species.
Aww.
Yep. So not necessarily Cerenamensis, but a Cerenamensis species, because I still don't know what they are. They're either Megasema, Altifrons, or Wine Milleri, but they're getting bigger now. Pretty cool fish. Paige says, what does the wrench icon mean? The wrench icon are wonderful, beautiful people. They're our moderators. And
That's
so
right.
the moderators are, they kind of do some helping out. So they are definitely people who
working.
help out a lot. So you've got Whip and you've got Oink here. I don't know who else is here in the land
got
of
second
moderators.
floor.
Second floor is here.
Lynn popped in, but since she had to go.
Yep, Lynn was here. So the moderators are people we've
You
known
named
for
Whip?
a
You
very
said
long.
Whip,
Yeah, I
right?
said Whip. Yeah, that we've known for a long time.
Number 47.
And they kind of help keep things in check. And so if there's, things that happen and if we miss something, sometimes they'll be like, hey, you missed this, or here's a really good question, or here's somebody being silly and they need to go away for a while because they're not necessarily conforming to yours and mine community standards, where we're trying to help each other out and be awesome people.
And be nice.
And be nice, yeah.
Noelle says, all hail our awesome moderators.
Oh my gosh, look at that.
All the wrenches.
Where'd you get the wrench from? Like, now I've got the wrench too.
Yeah.
That is so funny. That's
cute.
awesome. Yeah, our moderators are fantastic. They really, truly are. As are all of you. I mean, because you are the ones that make their lives a lot easier, and ours too. Because
That's right.
I'll tell you, I've been part of live streams with the moderators. You got an army of people, and they're just trying to keep track of all the not so good stuff, and that is not what we've built here. And we take a lot of we try very, very hard. I've got a list of blocked words that is 67 pages long of like swear words and stuff like that. I just don't want to see in a comment section, because I have always said from day one when we started this channel, Luke and Eli were small kids, and I wanted them to be able to watch our videos. That was my mindset, is anybody should be able to watch our videos and not have to worry about people attacking one another in the comment sections or using a bunch of language they don't want to see. Kids should be able to watch, and not only that, but read the comments. And so believe me when I tell you, I go through those comments, and a lot of times there's a lot of comments that get temporarily hung up in the blocked words section, and I have to go through and release them and get them back out into the actual visibility side, because there'll be just something silly that gets blocked. I'm like, well, that wasn't bad, but it was based on the whole big thing. So
Whole big thing.
the list of words. Yeah.
Tim wants to know the absolute bare minimum tank size for one Oscar.
That's a great question. So I'm going to tell you my preference, and that would be a 6-foot tank, 125. And only because full-grown Oscars get really big, and
They
it's
grow
not just that
fast.
like, oh my, yeah, they grow really fast. That's the other thing too. If you were to put a 1.5 inch little baby, oh, they're so cute, right? The little 1.5 inch Oscars
Yeah,
with the
they're
big
cute.
bulbly eyes, and they act like little kids. And you put that bad boy in a 75 gallon, thinking like, all right, I'm good. That fish is going to grow extremely fast. The only fish I've seen grow faster than the Oscar is the Nile tilapia.
Oh, yeah.
Our fish Timmy, he was 18.5 inches long, and he grew really quick. But so because of that, I really want a 125 minimally for that fish long term, because when you have not only a fish that's 12, 13.5 inches long, like, well, okay, but a 75 gallon that's 18.5 inches wide, so he can be able to turn around. Yeah, I know, but they're also pretty tall. They're also wide bodied. They eat a lot of food, produce a lot of waste, and they can sometimes be active. So I really like them in a 6-foot tank long term. It's just the dimensions work out. They look really well. Whip is also, as a minimum, a 125 would be better. Yeah, I agree, definitely. So Oscars, they're amazing fish. I don't have them in the fish room right now. And I saw John, KG Tropicals John, in the back of his thing when we're doing the podcast. He's always got that big 360, and he's got the Bichers, the Oscars, the Severums, a huge pleco, and I'm looking at those Oscars. And every time we film the podcast, half the time you're thinking I'm looking at him in the camera. I'm not. I'm kind of just looking down, and I'm looking at the fish in the background.
Water puppies.
It makes me miss them a lot.
Yeah, they're fun.
Yeah.
All right, James wants to know how many panda cories can I put in a heavily planted 29-gallon Tetra tank?
I would, so 29 gallon, I would say 6 to 8, just to be safe at least. Yeah. That would be a nice thing. And panda cories, I would say, as far as cories go, they're one of the smaller, not that they're drastically smaller. It's not like a habrosus or a pygmy, but some of the cory cats can get really thick and tall bodied. And panda cories tend not to be quite as big as other cories. Eric says, best schooling fish for a 40 breeder. Best schooling fish for a 40 breeder. Ooh, you've got a lot of options there. Do you have any opinion? Besides the green ants, what else would you put in a 40 that's a schooling fish?
In a 40?
Yeah. So one of our dozens of tetras, yeah.
I got to think about that for a minute.
Okay, so I've got some opinions. Rummy nose rasboras. Very cool. Not super active, but they're an awesome fish. Let's see here. You've got, I really love the melon bar, but if it's a planted tank, you could be a little iffy there, but they were super active, great color, great personality. We just finally sold out of those. Those were really cool. Something smaller, you have the chili dwarf and Mira rasbora, but they're really small. Brady mentioned Congos. That's a great option. Dwarf rainbow fish are a really cool option as well.
But a lot of people might consider it really boring, but a big group of silver tips would be pretty.
Silver tips are cool. Yep, for sure. I was thinking about that as well. Ember tetras. And you got all your neons. You've got your standards, you got your greens, you got your black neons, you've got your cardinal tetras. So you've got a lot of different options there. Rainbow fish. Full-grown rainbow fish might be tough. I think in a 40, the largest I might go is like the dwarf rainbows. Right. So yeah, you've got some choices there. Ashley says, I've got some Beckford's pencils in a 40 breeder. That's a cool fish. That's a really cool fish. I was really sad because I brought in one time the red pencil fish. And if you've ever look up the red pencil fish, they get a nice deep red.
Pretty.
And I had 400 or 500 of them in a 33 long for quarantine, and that was one of those ones where after 3 weeks I had 0 of them, so I never brought them in again. They just did not like the transition from the water they were in to our water. And when we quarantine our fish, I do not change our water parameters to anything. It's like if I'm bringing in a fish, these are fish that have to survive and do well in our Chicago water, because that's where we're selling most of our fish. The people who come to the swaps, or they're in Davenport. I always got very similar water parameters. So if they're not making it in our water, the last thing I want to do is be like, okay, I brought them in, I babied them, I put them in 75% RO. They did great. I fed them all these live foods. They're awesome. Oh, by the way, here's your fish. And I know you're going to put them in a completely different setup and they're all going to die, but they did well for us. So I make sure that they can survive in our water and eat and be healthy. Oh, this is a good one. Oink. My glass cats are mesmerizing. Yes, in this 125 right here, we have a group of, I think, 6 of them.
Yeah.
They've been with us for a really long time now. They
They're
were in
really
the
cool.
75 gallon for a while. And what's interesting about them is at first, whenever you move them to a new tank, they tend to be kind of shy. And people are like, man, I just got these glass cats and I never see them. Give them a little bit of time, especially if you've got other types of fish in that are going to be kind of out and about. And when they start coming out, they're really, really interesting fish. They were way more popular back in certainly like the late 70s, 80s, early 90s. And then they kind of lost favor, and I don't know why, but they're awesome.
Evan wants to know, what could you stack with an Oscar in this 125?
Oh, you've definitely got some options. So with our stocking options for the 125 got a little weird, but if I was keeping it traditional, you've got the Geophagus. They generally, the one thing that you have to understand about Oscars is they are not aggressive fish. They get a bad rap because they have a big mouth and they'll eat other fish, but they are not aggressive. And but believe it or not, they can be easily bullied. So I would keep other mellow-ish type of fish with my Oscar, and I might only do one of each of these types of fish instead of putting a group of them. So maybe like a Geophagus tapajos or any type of Geophagus really, with the exception of maybe the Braziliensis, that actually might be a little bit too rough on the Oscar, although maybe not. Severums, electric blue acara. I have kept them with firemouth cichlids. We've got Thrychtes maculopinus, which is kind of like a firemouth. That worked out well. So I'm thinking like, other types of cichlids, obviously. If you wanted larger schooling fish, things like the mascara barb would be a pretty cool option because that's going to be a larger fish. You just got to make sure that you match the sizes enough so that the Oscar doesn't drastically outgrow the mascara barbs and then be like, hey, oh, by the way, this is lunch. So that would be a decent schooling fish. Silver dollars would work with the Oscars as well. And let's see. I've kept bristlenose plecos without any issues with Oscars in the past. Raphael cat is a mellow, larger catfish that would, I think, get along pretty well. I've kept them with leaf tinapoma. That's worked out pretty well. So you've got some really cool options with the Oscar on that side. Now, I wouldn't necessarily keep all of those fish at the same time because you might run out of space. But yeah, those are all potential options. Cody, thank you so much for the super chat. I really appreciate it. I have a male bandit cory that tries to breed with one of my female bronze cories. Can cories hybridize? I get breeding activity all the time, but they usually breed with their same kinds. That's a great question. I am not a cory expert, so I don't know to the extent at which they will hybridize. I really don't. It's actually a really good question. If somebody here has ever had their cories hybridize, let me know. Especially if they're drastically different, like would the green Aeneas and the albinos hybridize? Absolutely. Would your Venezuelas hybridize with your Adolphi? Quite possibly, but I don't know with cories that are that different if they would actually be able to hybridize successfully. But it's an interesting question. But I haven't really seen too many cory hybrids either, so I'm not sure.
Michelle says that Aquatics has longfin cherry barbs.
Yeah, we've had them here. I've gotten them from the wholesaler and brought them in for a while. Cherry barbs are awesome. Nice deep red color. The males just absolutely fire up. Females have a more subdued red, but it's still really pretty. Males, really deep red. And I actually do prefer the long fins over the standards. Yep.
Pretty.
Pam asks, can an electric blue acara go in a 29 gallon? If not, what would be something similar that could? I wouldn't. Electric blue acara get pretty big. They're going to max out around 5.5 inches. Kind of a thicker bodied fish, not overly aggressive, but I think it would probably long term would be a little big for the 29 gallon. If I were looking for something similar in a 29, it's a fish that the most similar fish to that's going to fit well in a 29 is also one that's a little bit hard to find. It's called Nanacara anomala. So the Nanacara, if you look it up, so Nanacara, anomala, I think it was called. Yeah, we had a group of those in a 20 long. They're small, but they basically look like miniature versions of the electric blue acara. The only thing with those fish is, believe it or not, even though they're small, They're somewhat kind of aggressive towards one another.
Little stinkers.
Yeah, it's almost one of those ones where like I'd get a really fired up male and then just leave the one male in there. But once you start mixing multiple males in a tank, or even males with females, if they don't want to breed, they're a little bit rough on them. The other thing to consider in a 29 that's going to give you a lot of color is you've got all the epistogramma. And if you like that electric blue color, if other people have options, by all means, feel free to pipe in. But the epistogramma, the borellii, get a nice blue and yellow, as do the male epistogramma panduro, and those you could keep as a group in a 29. We've done that many times before with very few problems. So those would be the options. Do
You know what fish? Not just going off on a. You know what fish we haven't talked about in a long time, but I absolutely loved them. What was the tank that the Severum was in? What size was that?
The 40 breeder?
The 40
that
breeder?
We had the pair in?
Sahikas.
Oh, you know what? Yeah, before we had the
They're
Severums, we had the
so
Cryptohero
beautiful.
Sahika.
Their
Yeah.
eyes are beautiful, and
Yeah.
they just look, to me, they look like little mini Severums or something. I
Yeah.
don't know. I just love that little shape.
Yeah, the Sahika was,
Yeah.
we did a species profile on that fish. We bred those fish in that
Mhm.
40 breeder. Yeah, it was a really rather, it's kind of like it had the personality of like a Curvicep cichlid or a keyhole. So people who want to keep cichlids, but they're really kind of mellow and they don't get super huge. That was, yeah. And we don't talk about the other, what was the other one that we had with the blue eyes? I thought that was a Cryptohero Nanoluteus.
Oh, yeah.
That was another really pretty one
Yeah.
too. That was relatively mellow, and then all of a sudden it didn't breed for us forever. We had it in a 29 gallon, and then one day we put it in the 33 long with some Guayana Cara, and they started having babies. Oh my gosh, Demars is on a roll. He just did 5 more.
Oh, my God.
Thanks, man. That's awesome. That really is. So
Oh.
now we got Ashley, and we got Mr. SB, and we got Benjamin, and we've got Pam, and we've got Garage Gills, all chilling as well. Thank you. Wow, that's really cool. Really appreciate it. That is really cool.
Oh, Whip wants to know, did you get some wind therapy?
Wind therapy, meaning
This,
riding the motorcycle.
Yeah.
Oh
How
my
many miles
gosh.
did you put on?
In the last week, I was out for a couple days, and then this weekend we were out Saturday,
Yeah.
and I went out with some of my buddies Sunday. So we went
Yeah.
to Lake Geneva on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
I would say between all of those, I've already done over 300 miles, and then we did the trip together on Saturday to Lake
Yep.
Geneva. So that's with all the riding around, we do maybe 100 and a little over 100, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was
So-
Sunday.
oh,
You
yeah.
had a nice day
We were
for
out.
that.
You need to get the bike out. If it's still in storage, get
on,
that
Whip.
thing out, because this weekend's going to be, well, we got the green water swap. It's going to be a little chilly, but I'm already keeping my eyes open for the following week. That's looking like it's going to get into the 50s. And I've got a whole bunch of motorcycle parts I got to put on her bike. I got some stuff I got to do for my bike. My bike needs some brakes. It needs a brake fluid flush. It needs an oil change. So I got all of that stuff
You're
just
gonna be
waiting
busy.
to go. Yeah, I'm going to be busy. Evan says, tell Flip we need round 2 of the shrimp giveaway. Speaking of that, no, we got something planned. I mean, it's not a shrimp, but we have a giveaway planned it was supposed to be tonight, and then I
Yeah.
completely forgot about it. So I had to email Flip and be like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I forgot about the giveaway that was planned for tonight. Can we do it next week? Because we're getting into the gallery. We've got so much stuff going on. And so next week we have a giveaway planned, and it's going to be cool. It's going to be an awesome one.
Sweet.
I think it's going to be
Sweet.
cool.
Sweet.
Yeah. So don't you worry. And we've got one planned, I think, the week after that. There's going to be a few this month at least. Because like I said, we've got vendors that send us stuff, and the first thing we think of is what can we give to all the people?
Regina wants to know what CC is my bike. Well, I've got a Harley Road King special.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So hold
CC?
on. Debbie says, I live in Lake Geneva. That's awesome.
What?
Awesome, awesome
Lucky.
place. Very cool. We love it there.
yeah.
Especially when it's off season, because then it's not crazy
or
quite
not
so
a
crowded.
Saturday.
Or not a Saturday, yeah.
Yeah.
So CC for your bike, well, Harley measures it in cubic
Yeah.
inches, so it's a 114 cubic inch, which is somewhere around 1900 cc's. But the same thing as my touring bike, same thing as my FXDR. So yeah, they're all 114s. Yeah, very cool stuff. Shamu says, Tim, I would definitely go under the house and check it. Check out, what are we checking out? If you got, all right, so we got a tank in a house that maybe is a little heavy. Yeah.
Mm.
You want to make sure, ideally, if you got a heavy tank running on a floor that is not cement, that your ceiling joists are hopefully running perpendicular to the tank, so it's resting on as many joists as it can. So if you go under, you got a basement or something like that, I'm looking up like you can see, but you've got all of ours are running this way. So it's something I would keep in mind. And I'm not an engineer, so I have no idea what each one of those things, like is anybody here an engineer or like knows stuff, like a builder? Like what is, these have got to be at least 2x12s, right? I think they're 2x12s. They're huge. So I wonder what each one of those can hold, especially when they are resting like on the foundation of a wall in a basement. It's got to be a decent amount of weight, but I don't know. It's so weird because Whip and I have talked about this before. Like if we were in the living room and I wanted to put a 75-gallon up there, we would never even think about it. If you had a couch and let's say you had 3 big dudes, like 250-pound dudes sitting on a couch, one person would be like, uh-oh,
Yeah,
we've got 3
y'all shouldn't sit there
250-pound
next
dudes
to each
sitting
other.
on the couch. There's going to be a problem. My floors might. But yet we put a 75-gallon there at the same weight. And we're like, what's going to happen? Probably because it's filled with water, but still, we want to run the cross joists perpendicular. I love that word.
Perpendicular.
Regina says, oops, hold on, smash your game. Well, I clicked on that one instead. How do you get rid of dragonfly larvae and aquatic mouth larvae in an aquarium? Dragonfly, that's tough. They get pretty big, right? So we haven't had that issue. It would be a bigger issue probably in a pond, but they get big enough where I think you can just remove them with a net, but we have not had that issue, and they can be rather hard on fish. So definitely you're right to want to get rid of them because, yeah. Regina says, Joanna, that's a big bike. Yeah, the Road King.
Yeah, he's my boy.
She started out, you had the Softail Slim
I did.
for over a year, and then realized that based on the long rides that we do, that the Softail Slim was not going
Wasn't
to cut
cutting
it on the highway and and you didn't have cruise control, you had none of that. So
None
we're
of it.
zipping along, just kicking back on the highway at 80
Yeah, he
miles
was
an hour.
loving it, and I'm like,
Cruise
this is
control,
terrible.
I've got an electric glide limited, so a lot of my buddies have all touring bikes, so we're just like, just hauling, and she's back there on her Softail
this isn't
Slim,
fun at
which
all.
isn't necessarily a small bike. It had a 107 in it, but it had no cruise control.
No bags.
There was a little bit more vibration because it was a Softail, not
Yeah.
a touring suspension or touring frame. No bags. So yeah, once we started taking more weekend trips and stuff, we're like, yeah, this isn't going to work because it's not the best. Did you take that bike to Door County?
No.
You had the Road King by then.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we did.
That's why we
Okay.
got the Road King.
That's why, because we got that, and then we were off to Door County a couple weeks later.
Yeah.
Andrew says, have you had a Phantom Pleco? We love ours. It is in a 20-gallon tall with blue betta, 6 albino cories, and 17 brilliant raspberry. That's a cool combo. Yeah, we have 3 blue Phantom Plecos in our fish room right now that we almost never see. I forgot at one point because we had 2 over here, and then I had one in the 40 breeder in the fish room, and that one I would see every once in a while, like it would forget to hide, and I'd be like, oh, there it is. But the 2 in here, I forgot that we even had. And then when we were breaking all these tanks down, I put them in other tanks on the other side of the fish room, and then I forgot where I put them. And the other day, I was in the Vieja tank, the 125, and I'm like, what is that on the glass? I'm like, because it wasn't a bristle nose, it was shaped differently. I'm like, oh, I forgot. We put a blue Phantom in there. So I don't know if we put both. I told Eli, take those out, and I just don't remember where I told him to put those. So I think that there might be 2 in a 125. Great fish. Blue Phantom Plecos, very, very cool. We found them to be really hardy, too. So
They're so pretty.
yeah.
Oink wants to know what's the longest trip we've taken on the bikes together.
Is it
Sturgis.
Duh.
I was
thinking Door County. I'm
I
like,
know,
wait a minute.
that was my first thought. I'm like,
No,
wait
no,
a second, no.
We knocked out Sturgis. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, she's hardcore. She is. On the way back from Sturgis, we went from Sturgis to somewhere in Minnesota, and that was a 600-mile day, and we were just down the highway. There she is.
Now I'm getting my new handlebars,
we
and
just
that'll
got
make it
the
even more comfortable
12
because
inches from the
stock
9.
Road King special handlebars
Yeah.
stink.
Yeah.
They're terrible.
So that's a project for me later on, maybe
Yeah.
this weekend, next week.
Get cracking.
I know. Dalton, thank you so much for being a member the last 14 months. Is there any way to keep driftwood underwater? It won't because if it won't become waterlogged after months. It's a huge piece of bogwood and it won't fit in a barrel or a tub. Yes. share your trickery with that one. If you were going to do some large driftwood, how would you keep it from floating?
My trickery?
Yes, you have trickery.
How would I keep my large driftwood from floating? Well, glue it to rocks underneath it.
There you go.
That's
Yeah.
one thing. You can, for a while, put rocks on top of it, but it's not generally like accepted. That's generally the layer is substrate rock driftwood. But if you are going to super glue your driftwood to rocks, definitely use some sort of a lot of people use like cigarette filters, or I like to use, you can paper towel little strips, and you soak it with super glue, and that kind of fills in the gap a little bit better.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, and rocks on. You can just, if you don't care about the aquascape, big
Or
old
if you're
rocks
gonna
on
plant
top
a
of the,
whole lot
yeah.
around it, just put the rocks on
But
top of
the
the
gluing
driftwood.
onto the large rocks is good. I mean, we did that. The tank right over here. This tank right here. All that wood. There are rocks that are basically holding that down that you really can't see,
Mm-hmm.
and there are also a ton of rocks that you glued. Like when I set up, I'm like, okay, can you glue it all? And then you glued all that. So we did the same thing with these 125s, where these people ask, oh, is that wood all one piece? No, they're in both cases. There's 4 or 5 pieces stuck together. We glued them together and then glued them to rocks to keep them all down. So
And then you cross your fingers and start
hope,
filling.
Yeah, and hope nothing floats, because that's a very sad thing.
Oh, it's the worst.
Brandon, thank you so much for being a member the last 4 months. Thanks for another awesome live stream. Thank you for being here. Really appreciate it. Glad you're chilling with us this fine evening. Hold on, I just saw Michelle's been a member for 5 months too. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thanks,
We have a
Michelle.
blue pleco. We maybe see it once or twice a month. Yep, you're doing good. If you're seeing it once or twice a month, of course
You're
you might be
lucky.
sitting in front of your fish tanks longer than we are, because that's the one thing about having a fish room. It's not like you're watching TV and then all of a sudden, you know what's been crazy? Because now I am down here pretty much, whether it's for office hours or just trying to get stuff done, I am down here much more often, and there is a lot of activity happening down here.
I bet.
You kind of expect that with all these tanks, but you hear things plopping and flopping and hitting lids, and all of a sudden I'm looking at the Vieja, and they're like, they don't really fight, but they'll push each other around. Like with their mouth.
Yeah.
They don't even bite down.
Yeah.
They just kind of push each other, and then they just leave each other alone. So
That's a noisy tank, actually.
it is and so is the bottom 125 with all those cichlids in there.
Yes.
They're always constantly goofing off. They're a
Pretty
bunch
much.
of goofballs, man.
Getting into some kerfuffles.
Yep. Yeah. All right, I think we'll answer a couple more, and then we'll start wrapping it up, right? Because it's getting late for everybody. Ashley says, what is y'all's recommendation for what to stock and scape a 75-gallon? I have 20 tanks with nanos. Would love bigger fish. Was thinking 1 Geo Altifrons if big enough, or archers if a schooling fish loaches. The Geophagus Altifrons would be a great fish for the 75. Loaches are cool. I probably would do the clown loaches because they're going to get too big for the 75 long term. What I really love, if you did that Geophagus Altifrons, check out the red tail botia. That's a fish that we've brought in a number of times. It's one of my favorite loaches, the red tail botia.
It's very
Great
pretty.
fish. Get them in a group of like 5 or 6. They hide a little bit more than clown loaches do, but when they get used to the surroundings, that can be a really great bottom dweller. You could do a lot of the more high-end plecos, or I don't know if they're high-end, but the ones that show off a little bit more, like the super reds or the green dragons, or like at the snowball plecos. Those are all really cool. And then for a schooling fish and a 75-gallon, you've got rainbows. A lot of color, lots of different options there. Some of the barbs might work just well. So again, we were talking about the melon barbs. The other one I forgot about in this tank here, the snakeskin barb. That's one of my all-time favorites. So that would also be a really cool option with the geos. Brilliant green rasbora. Full grown would probably be safe in your geo tank as well. What do we got here? Paige, thank you so much for the super chat. Appreciate it. Jasmine has a question about fancy goldfish I would also like answered. All right, your job is to find Jasmine's question. And Jasmine, you know what? If you would probably it'd be easier if you just asked it again, just in case we can't find it.
All
And then,
I'm looking here.
But Joanna's she's on the hunt for the question. But yeah, if we can put it back in there somewhere, that might make it a little bit easier to find. Oh my gosh, this thing is all messing up. Blackfire Aquatics. can I add a black angelfish and a geophagus with my electric blue cars and my rocket gar in a 75 gallon? Size-wise, you're fine. I have never kept a rocket gar before, so I don't know how big that thing is going to get. Usually they get a little bit on the larger side, but in terms of aggression and them getting along, most likely they would probably get along just fine. I don't see the angelfish going out of their way or the other two fish to go out of the way to do anything to the angelfish.
I got the question.
All right, bring it.
From Jasmine and Paige.
Okay.
What is the best size tank for fancy goldfish? What do you recommend? Sand, gravel, bare bottom, no heater. I saw a video where they recommended a heater.
So I can tell you what we've done. And we have, and what we've done is the way I would prefer. Generally speaking, I would like at least a 40 breeder for one fancy goldfish. And then I think the general rule of thumb is for every goldfish after that, actually I think it's 29 gallons for one. And then for every one after that, you're adding like another 10 or 15 gallons. So what we did is I have 5 fancy goldfish in a 75 gallon. I love that size tank because I like to keep multiples together, especially the fancy goldfish. They're happy-go-lucky. They're waddling all around. They're goofy. They're carefree. So I definitely love the 75 gallon that we set up. I've got 5 fancy goldfish in there now. And as far as heaters go, no, we don't have a heater in there, but our fish room is also pretty warm. So they are at probably in that part of the fish room, they're probably 77, 78 degrees. That's a little warmer than I think is ideal. I'd like to bring that down if I could. Maybe someday I will move them out of the fish room and someplace else, but we actually got those goldfish on accident. I found them in a box one time when I went to a wholesaler, and all of a sudden I'm like, what is this? Then they gave me these goldfish, and I'm like, well, they're going to go in this quarantine tank, and now I'm like, what do I do with them now? And now they're in the 75 gallons. So
escape a beautiful tank for them. That's what you do with
that's
them.
what I did. And in terms of the substrate, I use sand. So I thought the sand, you hear all these stories. It almost doesn't matter like which direction you go. You hear horror stories about gravel. You hear horror stories about sand. Bare bottom tanks, they're really hard to keep looking good. So that's the downside there. You're constantly trying to get all the stuff off the bottom. At least with the sand and the gravel, it's not quite so obvious. But that's what we've done. We did Anubias throughout that tank. Some of it died because I don't know what's going on with our Anubias lately. That's another thing we'll talk about in Sunday's video. So yeah, that's how I roll with it. 75 gallon. I don't know if I would put 5 in there, but certainly 3 or 4 would work. Victor says, have you brought fish home on your Harleys? We have. There was a couple green water swaps we went to maybe a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And again, I've got the tour pack on mine, so it's not as much vibration. I'm not worried about the noise. They were in a cooler on the tour pack. They all did fine. Now, would I throw them in a saddlebag and drive 8 hours with them? No, because they'd probably not like that very much.
That's why if you think that's going to happen and you do have, you take your bike, just bring little helmets.
Little helmets for the fish, yeah. They might have a harder time swimming, but that's okay. All right, everybody. On that happy note, I think we're going to put helmets on our fish and we're going to call it a night. You come back next week, there's helmets on all our fish. Like, oh my gosh, they did that. Wow. That is so weird. But anyway, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate everybody. Lots of great questions. Thank you to all the people who donated new memberships because that was really cool. You'll have a video out tomorrow. Thank you to all our moderators, and it was awesome. Everybody for the super chats. Really appreciate it. We are going to be back same time, same place next Wednesday. We will have a giveaway next Wednesday.
Woohoo.
So yeah, going to be awesome. Check out the Tank Talk podcast coming up on Monday. We'll have a brand new episode for you there on that channel. You all have a great week, and we will see you next week.
Night night.
So bye-bye, everybody. I got to hit the buttons.